now.
And I was going to
And
tell him about your experience in
I
class
don't
this
know if you
week.
should. I wasn't going
Well,
to share it.
I was going to because of our reading last week.
Okay.
And
Okay.
tie it in this week.
All right. And
Okay.
Dr. Cat is here.
So who was that you
Rachel and
got? Rachel
okay, that's been it.
and Kat?
Oh, here's Brad. Where's Brad? There we go. All right.
So for those of you who were here last week, I read a poem by Ellen Bass called If You Knew.
And I read it in yoga this week. If you were here last week, you remember I said, "Oh, I'm going to steal that," and I did. It was an appropriate reading for reaching out with loving kindness toward all beings.
So it went, what if you knew you'd be the last to touch someone? If you were taking tickets, for example, at the theater, tearing them, giving them back the ragged stubs, you might take care to touch that palm, brush your fingertips along the lifeline's crease. When a man pulls his wheeled suitcase too slowly through the airport, when the car in front of me doesn't signal, when the clerk at the pharmacy won't say thank you, I don't remember they're going to die. A friend told me that she'd been with her aunt. They just had lunch, and the waiter, a young gay man with plum black eyes, joked as he served the coffee, kissed her aunt's powdered cheek when they left. Then they walked half a block, and her aunt dropped dead on the sidewalk. How close does the dragon's spume have to come? How wide does the crack in heaven have to split? What would people look like if we could see them as they are, soaked in honey, stung and swollen, reckless and pinned against time? So Thursday, while Liddell was doing her class at the church, one of her yoginis got up to go to the bathroom, which she regularly did, and was gone a few minutes, and then she heard a call uh, from the bathroom for help, and three of the women went and addressed it and found one of her yoginis on the floor, and they saw she was in distress. She asked that someone call her daughter, and then they started doing CPR, got the paddle out. Paramedics were there in about 6 minutes, and she passed. Uh, and again, we talk about impermanence. We talk about the preciousness of life. When it comes that close and touches us, um, it um, it breaks our hearts open, as Linnell's going through right now. Uh, so part of what we're learning is how do we recover from events like that? The tendency is to want to withdraw. Can I share that you were like, well, say, maybe I shouldn't do this anymore. Maybe I'm working with too high risk a group. Maybe I don't know enough. And that's what our mind does. It begins to catastrophize, begins to take a, a, an, an event like death, which is an integral part of life, not a mistake, not something to be avoided, not even preventable. Um, then how do we reopen? And I found this poem to share today. I actually found two poems I love, but you only get one today. This is by William Stafford, one of my favorite poets. He says, it's all right. And he wrote, he was born in 1914, passed in 1993. So he was part of the World War II generation. Um, and he's probably saying, it's all good. It's all right. Someone you trusted treats you bad. Someone has used you to vent their ill temper. Did you really expect anything different? Your work, better than some others, has languished, neglected, or a job you tried was too hard and you failed. Maybe weather or luck spoiled what you did. That grudge held against you for years after you patched it up has flared and you've lost a friend for a time. Things at home aren't so good. On the job, your spirits have sunk. But just when the worst bears down, you find a pretty bubble in your soup at noon. And outside at work, a bird says, "Hi." Slowly, the sun creeps along the floor. It's coming your way. It touches your shoe. What's negative often appears so monumental, so monolithic, so enduring. And that too is impermanent. And that's what we're doing in our remembering, taking the parts, putting them back together, looking at the whole pattern. We begin to see that mixed with the horrible stuff is the sweetness of life. And often the sweetness, like the sunlight creeping or the bubble in your soup or the bird singing, are so subtle that our addicted brains don't even register them. And so it seems like life is way out of balance. And what equanimity means is that as we regain that appreciation for the everyday, those subtle moments of life, those moments of grace, those moments when the world is numinous and blessing, we begin to see them again. We need to find that reading we used to do about we'll feel the earth as we plant things. So in reclaiming being in the present moment and overcoming the negativity, the bias of our brain, we begin to see the balance, which is what equanimity is. It's not a matter of thinking, oh, it's all good, which is what everybody does these days. They say the word and it's so superficial, so trite, so lacking any depth. But when someone like Larkin says it's okay, it's all right, he's really speaking to an actual seeing. And that's what we're learning in meditation, is to see the truth behind the words, that there really is a balance, that even in the midst, when you look at the Tao, even in the fullest part of the darkness, there's a seed of light. That's what that little dot means. And then the light grows, and as it gets to its fullest point, it has a seed of darkness in it. So everything brings about its opposite. Sometimes these very subtle things, like the butterfly effect, begin to break open the trance states that we're in around things that happen to us that are not our most favorite parts of life. So that we begin to fear them less, trusting that the light's being born even in the midst of the darkness. That's what Christmas means. It means that the light is being born even in the darkness. It's one thing to say that. So what we're being guided to by Sharon Salzberg is how to see that reality, how to trust it. Like the crisis in our country now is already giving birth to its own solution. Things are emerging now that will be the new positive that will be destroyed eventually, and something else will be born out of that. So we'll turn it over to Sharon and hear this installment on equanimity. So.
Lesson 4, Balance in Times of Pain. Welcome back. Before I began meditating, when I thought of being out of balance, I would visualize a hand holding an old-fashioned scale, where one of the weighted brass plates was a bit lower than the other. But that image didn't quite capture the way I actually felt when what I needed was some equanimity. As life twists and turns, often we try to convey the impression that we've got it all together. But sometimes we maintain the appearance of steadiness only by staying in a state of tension so high that our emotional equilibrium can be blown off course by the mildest of breezes. Is it truly a life in balance if it requires so much effort? Ease is part of what we want. To feel unrestricted, peaceful, and free. To be able to respond appropriately to our world as it changes. I've come to think that a better image for balance is a gyroscope. The gyroscope is a wonderful visual representation of equanimity, the ability to find calm and steadiness under stress. That balance is loose and limber, capable of ducking some of what's coming and getting quickly back to true. Watch a gyroscope in motion, and you'll see the wonder of the simple way it maintains a perfect balance. The core of the gyroscope, its axis, spins with such power that it keeps the big circle around it well balanced. Although constantly in motion, the gyroscope is stable, adjusting to whatever comes its way. A gust of wind or a hard knock on the table will send a spinning top tumbling, but not a gyroscope. Try to knock it over, and it gracefully and steadily rights itself. As we navigate through circumstances, we can learn to be more agile and responsive instead of reactive. The balance of a gyroscope comes from its strong core, its central stable energy. A sense of meaning in our lives can give us that core, lifting our aspirations, strengthening us in adversity, helping us have a sense of who we are and what we care about, despite changing situations and painful experiences. In 1984, the Insight Meditation Society brought the renowned Burmese meditation teacher, Sayadaw U Pandita, to Barre, Mass. To lead a 3-month retreat. My friends Joseph Goldstein and Jack Cornfield and I had never met him before, but we sent the invitation because we heard that he was a remarkable teacher and committed to practice under his guidance. Once we met him, our experience confirmed what we had heard. We also found that he was very tough, demanding, and even fierce as a teacher. One day we were in the meditation hall and someone asked, "How long should I pay attention to physical pain while meditating before I move my attention to something easier?" This might include listening to sound, paying attention to a part of the body that doesn't hurt, consciously shifting to something like loving kindness for yourself and others. I thought that given Sayadaw U Pandita's usual intensity, he would suggest something like, "You should be with the pain until you fall over." Instead, he replied, "Don't be with it very long. Pay attention to something easier. Then bring your attention back to the pain. Leave it again." He went on, "It's not wrong to just be with the pain and be with the pain, but you'll likely get exhausted. Why not build in balance all along the way?" Hearing that, I almost fell over. Surprised as I was, though, I knew U Pandita as someone with incredible integrity, so I knew he believed it to be good advice. I thought, he doesn't pander. He's the furthest thing in the universe from someone who would say something untrue just to be nice or consoling. We can extrapolate from this teaching on physical pain what we might need to work effectively with heartache, trauma, or extremely bad circumstances. It points us to a key instruction in trauma therapy: titration. You can't do it all at once. You can't absorb all that pain at once. In 2019, when I was hospitalized with a severe infection, I well remember the first time I was able to get out of bed and walk down the hospital corridors using a walker. The physical therapist accompanying me seemed to find me quite amusing. At one point, she said, "It's not a race, you know. You'll get farther if you stop and rest periodically." I started taking that as advice for my life in general. Interestingly, I often find that people don't like this instruction in meditation practice, which reflects the power of our cultural conditioning around pain. I find that students will take this instruction of titration to mean that they can't handle the pain or aren't courageous enough to face it. But remember what U Pandita said. Yes, you can be with the pain without interruption, but it will exhaust you more. So why not do it in the easiest way possible? Especially when it means having a more balanced relationship to things that are inherently hard to be balanced with. Another aspect of finding balance in pain is exploring the anxiety or fear that often accompanies difficulty. Neuroscientist Richie Davidson has researched whether meditation can affect our relationship to physical pain. Richie found that meditators and non-meditators differed most sharply with one another in their experience of what happened before and after the painful stimulus was withdrawn. More of the non-meditators flipped into a cycle of rumination and anticipation. When is it coming back? How bad will it be? While more of the meditators could let it go. Letting it go implies moments of respite, periods of relaxation and peace, rather than seemingly unremitting suffering. Physical or emotional pain is often irregular, abrupt, and fitful, and that's what makes it harder to bear. Of course, if we had an exact schedule of when the pain was coming, we might more easily acclimate ourselves to it. But this is also the truth of how things are, and what is and is not ours to control. However, as I have put U Pandita's teaching on pain into practice in my own life, it has given me greater confidence in myself to face future times of pain with greater agency and wisdom. See if you can set aside a few minutes without needing to answer your phone or respond to messages. Giving yourself a little space relatively free of distractions. You can work with the following as a reflection or by journaling. Do you think you have a discernible pattern of how you tend to react to physical or emotional pain? Will self-blame or sense of isolation, it's only me, projection into the future, or compassion, equanimity? Remember, whatever you discover through this introspection is not something you need to judge. When you complete this prompt, you can close the reflection by sitting quietly for a few minutes, just being with yourself. Eyes can be open or closed, however you feel comfortable. Notice how the breath is moving in and out of the body. Then take a moment to acknowledge the time you've taken today to offer yourself this course. This concludes today's lesson.
I thought we'd agreed to leave and get there a little earlier so it wouldn't be so hot for you.
concludes our meditation.
Okay. So again, the great part of this teaching, which counterbalances our uh, type A personalities here in the West, we say no pain, no gain. And so we associate pain, particularly in our practice and even into our healing, as being something to be gotten through, to do in a hurry, to take on as much as we can. And we forget that no pain, no gain may be true, but it's also got a corollary, which is too much pain, no gain. If you're working out, you're tearing down faster than you can build up, you're not going to gain. If you're doing your healing and you're traumatizing yourself faster than you can rebound, you're not healing. So this is something I've always integrated in my practice, which is pulsing, to get up against the discomfort just a while until people start shutting down. And some of you who've worked with me will know I'll say, tell me when you're clenching, tell me when it's too much, because we're going to stop. Okay, maybe just a little bit more than that, but not a lot more than that. So he again said, an interesting thing in there is about how quickly can we get back to balance. That it's not going to be the absence of pain, it's not going to be the absence of shutting down or of constricting, it's how quickly do you recover after it happens. And there's where you're going to see the improvement. Things that used to shut us down for weeks and cause us to go dorsal and lock ourselves in our room, turn the lights off and listen to the blues and get drunk. We managed to pass through in a couple of days. And so that capacity again to see things that, as she said, the minds of people who don't meditate go to the past and the future. That's the monkey mind. And when you go to the past and the future, that's where all the catastrophic thinking happens. That's where the suffering is. So the quicker that we can stay in the present moment, not get into catastrophizing or victimizing, then the more life has balance for us. So there's a story that I never really, it's one of those koans that I reflect on, which is the Zen master who lost his wife, and his disciple found him crying. And they said, I thought you wouldn't cry over something like this. And he goes, of course I cry. She was my wife. I lost someone very precious to me. But then the next day he was back. And that's the point. We tend to think we're going to get to a place of no pain, no distress, that equanimity means never having our feathers ruffled. That's not the point. It's that we're developing a capacity to be in both extremes without closing, which means, yeah, this happens, but over here, this happens too. So that there's much more balance. The negative doesn't have the kind of profound weight that it tends to carry with most of us before we start to meditate. So I like this kind of refining our sense of what we can expect, because the greater, this is Alfred Adler, the greater the distance between what you expect out of life and what's actually happening is your resulting suffering. So he has these two lines, and the greater the expectations, the lower your self-esteem. And if our expectations are out of line with life, we're very perfectionistic, we suffer the most because it never reaches our expectations. But the more we will what's happening, the more we can sit with what is, not have expectations beyond that. Maybe just nudge it a little. Just say, okay, let's tweak it. Let's just do a little bit more, like in yoga. Okay, well, is that enough? Can I just get this breath, maybe just a little bit more? Okay, that's good. We'll settle for that today. So, what y'all got?
Yeah, this whole teaching, yours, Bart's been telling me all this for 4 years. uh,
See, hear when she says it, right?
what?
It's easier to hear when she says it.
Oh, and Sharon. Oh, I don't know. It's just, I don't know. Maybe it's because I turned you into my dad. I don't know. It's just, yeah, but it's a good teaching. I mean, it's very critical for me. Everything she said and you said afterward, I can't even really explain it, but I can't really use my mind anymore. It's kind of just, it's the minute I try to plan something in my day, it's like it gets contracted around.
Exactly.
And so it's taken me, yeah, it's taken a long time to lower the expectations.
And paradoxically, you're accomplishing more, right? Paradox.
Yeah, when I don't use my mind, all sorts of stuff gets done. So then I start raising my expectations again, and
There
then
you go. That's how it is. You got it. Congratulations.
The poem you read, Bart, was poignant for me this morning, because I lost one of my friends here at V this week, with whom he used to ride with me, bike ride. And he hasn't for a while, and he's been going downhill, and I knew it, so I had kind of lost touch with being with him much lately. But his death, kind of paradoxically, was a really positive experience for me, because it brought back all those terrific memories, and it allowed me to go through. I have a habit of taking pictures on every bike ride we go on with friends, so that we all have a memory of it. And so I had the opportunity to gather up all the pictures I had of him riding with us, and it just became a terrific remembrance, and a positive experience, that it's part of life. We knew um, he was on his way out, and it's just a reminder that it's part of life, and it allows you to focus on the good things.
Absolutely. Thank you for that, Tom. we had a maid at the seminary. You remember what was her name? Brad Willie B. Uh, she's the most spiritual person in the whole place, and she would always say, "Give flowers to the living. Give flowers to the living. Remember to express your gratitude to people and your appreciation of their life while they're alive. It benefits the hell out of them. It benefits the hell out of you too. So taking that time, like you were saying, Tommy, I love that, cherishing the memories. You know, we don't do that often enough, and it's the one advantage I've found of photos is it really helps capture the glimmers. And I think I've said we go through, you know, on this day, so and so, we were at Dune Park, Tommy, on our way to Taos, New Mexico. You know, my brain forgets that I've been these extraordinary, amazing places, but recalling them and having the picture brings it all back like it's happening, just the way PTSD brings it all back like it's happening. Use your brain wisely. Yeah. Don't just let it linger with that negativity bias and all the crap that's happening.
And reflecting on what
That's
Sharon
there
said,
too. That not saying that doesn't exist, but keep working on
yeah, reflecting on what Sharon said, it allows you balance in your life. It allows you to balance when there's death. You balance it with life. I mean, you come into equanimity with it. It's really a profound thing.
it. I used to do part of a Jewish wedding ceremony where they would take sweet wine like Manischewitz that's too cloyingly sweet to drink, and then a really bitter wine, and mix them together. And the point was, may your marriage be a mixture of the sweet and the bitter, so that it becomes palatable. It's only in the mixing that it becomes palatable. Get too far out on either extreme, you're out of whack.
I had the opportunity after the traumatic yoga class experience to get home and realize that those of us that were present in the class that morning shared the extraordinary experience also of being the with Rachel in the last few moments of her life. And that was a nice way to shift, and people shared what their conversations were that they might have had, you know, that morning. And so that was helpful to balance out the pain that we all felt.
If I could, I want to read a morning meditation from earlier this month.
Love that. Missed your poems.
The brutal songs of the cicadas that usually assault first hours ceased this morning after a welcome night of rain. The silence deepens, and intensity emerges from a void while not thinking until thoughts and feelings reemerge. Allow me to succor this short, delicious insight.
Sweet. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. That was beautiful. I was in a workshop within the last year, and one of the guys in my group, it was a writing workshop, and one of the guys in my group was a Presbyterian minister, but he was from Korea. And a lot of what you were saying was just going, oh, that's Daniel. But what he wanted to do, one reason he was taking this class was he needed, because he lives in California now, he needed an American audience to tell if it was understood, if his point was coming across. And he used Chat GPT some, but sometimes it didn't make a bit of sense. And one of the things that he came to when he was talking about balance was he called it a trembling compass. And I just keep seeing that when I'm needing to understand a visual of what that means. You know, when you're using a compass, it never really is still. It's still trying to find its true north or whatever. But I just, when you were, and then you said something about Americans, you know, don't do all this stuff. And I'm going, that's Daniel, that's Daniel. So I had to share it.
Well, thank you. I like that. Yeah, it's not static at all. It does tremble. That's great.
You know, that makes me think of how the poem that Brad read and this vision of the trembling compass and this experience. And I'm so sorry, Linnell, that she went through this week and the fleetingness of it all and the craziness that we are, excuse this, these meat bags that walk around on this earth and then we leave and just taken, you know, it takes that fineness of that fleeting moment and that trembling and the recognition of the void and the love for it, you know, learning to love that, learning to understand we all are experiencing it. It's difficult, you know, and I wish we'd do more of that. And I wish we'd do that with our children too, make them aware of that. But it's just so delicate and fine. And it's like you can watch the moment where the present and the past meet each other and what happens there. That's what I think this morning.
Thank you. Thank you.
You can talk now. Hello? Can y'all hear me?
Go ahead, Dorothy.
I was doing some readings yesterday with some people, and one of them was beautiful, and I think it fits in really nicely. It was talking about either fear or anxiety, and I can't remember which one, but it compared the fear and anxiety to black and white, like everything's either black or white, and that's where the mind goes. It doesn't go to anything else. It just registers things as black or white. And it said to bring soft colors into it and balance your serenity with the black and white. And that made a lot of sense to me because I'm a painter and I'll go into my hallway and paint for hours on end. And I feel so connected. And so, you know, it brings balance to my life. And it's a solution for my mind. And I just wanted to share that.
Thank you.
Something that came up for me that was really helpful. I mean, there was so much, but Bart used the word titrate. You know, this morning I sang the Gate of Sweet Nectar, which I had connected to at one point, and it was like talking about, you know, your joy and your sorrow, I make it mine. And I really dove into that at a time when the Ukraine war was starting. And, you know, Sharon talking about her teacher saying you can only lean into that for so long, or, you know, that awareness. I mean, at some point, is there awareness of everything all at once? That's an idea, I'm gonna let it go, but I'm in the pain. the suffering of the world, it's exhausting.
Yes.
And so that we can, uh, I went to Goodwill and got a whole new bed cover, like pillows, sheets, duvet cover, beautiful blanket for $26. And it's just something that's lovely, and I've needed something, just something beautiful and comfortable and kind, and that I can, that I don't have to keep myself from those things. That there's I can open to the suffering and then also open, and that those things, that balance, that equanimity. So that, oh, that was really helpful. Uh, and then also
Yeah.
within relationships, Bart, you bringing it around to, you know, it can take 3 weeks to come out of it. And then, I had a really difficult conversation with a parent who was a friend that I realized, ooh, this is not something I want to be a part of. Um, and we had a big conversation yesterday, and I went right back into it, uh, and went into like the fight or flight, and all the things are going to happen because of the stuff that she was kind of little things she was laying in there, and I was like, oh. And then I was trying to find my equanimity again, trying to um, go back to present moment, not fear of the future or what happened in the past that was painful. Uh, and it wasn't easy to drop back in. And so this conversation about realizing that it might take 3 weeks, and then if it takes 2 weeks next time, or it takes a day, that's okay. That's a part of learning to walk again. Or you start with the step, and it might take 3 weeks. So that all, and there's so much more that was helpful that I can't remember, but those are the things that are coming up.
Well, thank you. And let me tie this into another aspect of the teaching. The new buzzword is self-regulation, and particularly with polyvagal theory and going ventral. Uh, Two things. One, you can't force getting back. If you try to force your equanimity, you're going to close. Force doesn't work. So for type A personalities, lose that here. It's fine other areas of your life, but when it comes to your spiritual life, effort has no merit. That one of the things we talk about in the Eightfold Path is right effort, which is basically most of the time not an effort, simply the effort of coming back to allowing. But also, like you were saying with your comforter, and I like that, is that so many of the things that help us like we're sitting looking at the morning sunlight, that helps you balance. It restores you to balance without your effort. Taking a walk pumps hope molecules. I'm watching again Kelly McGonigal. They found 10 years ago when you use your muscles, you pump a natural antidepressant, which even helps you cure trauma by simply using your body, whether it's swimming, yoga, doesn't matter what you're doing. Listening to music, humming a song, taking a bath, all these things, even aromatherapy begins to reset us. And that's what I like, is it really has given me permission to kind of indulge in things that I denied myself for years, not seeing their significance. And these are all allies. I'm going to work next week with this idea that nature here is your ally, saying, let me help you. The birds are going, hey, 6 minutes of me singing and you'll be ventral, the light in the morning, inviting you to come out, help you get out of your funk, muscles, use your body. This is all going to help you. So we've really, in being cut off from our bodies and being cut off from nature, been cut off from the very thing that actually regulates and balances It makes life palatable, and I love that. Go play. So if you walk in my office, I've got two statues. One is of Don Quixote, and you're bringing up Rachel Social Action, yeah, and Galen, yeah. I'm in the trenches. Uh, my friend Pat Sewell says Bart's in the front line of the mental health war, and he's got a very small weapon. He thought the drugs were a better weapon than meditation. You were wrong, dude. So anyhow, here's Don Quixote, and on the other side is Avalokiteshvara, who is the male aspect of Kuan Yin. And so, yeah,
Compassion.
go compassion, yeah. So yeah, go get your ass kicked, but then do what we're doing right now. Be out in nature, relax, do absolutely nothing. Let life nourish you, and then go get your ass kicked some more. So it's not one or the other. It's both and. It's not, oh, I got to feel guilty because I'm not out there making a difference in the world. Well, you're making a difference in the world when you become the peace you're trying to create. They're not two different things. So, as she said, honor yourself for taking the time to nourish your depths in your meditation and in your play.
And even like now, as I'm like contemplating what you said, like I leaned into that sutra with the suffering, your joy and your sorrow,
Yeah.
and I left out the joy.
No!
You know, I left out the joy.
There you go. Girl, look at that. Okay. Put that inside up and say, this, I have to see this more. Yeah, leave out the joy part.
Can I sing it for you guys? Is that okay?
Sure, that'd be a good way to close.
Okay.
So tell them what you're singing.
Yes.
It's The Gate of Sweet Nectar. Bernie Glassman had, is it Krishna Das, write a melody for it. And it took him a number of years. And then he finally was like, oh, I know. And then there's another chant that follows that I can't remember what it's called, but I think it's a part of Monkey.
It's the Hanuman Chalisa.
Yes. Thank you. So I'm just doing the first part.
Okay, so Bernie, for those of you who don't know, was a Zen Roshi out in San Francisco. And the guidelines that we follow are from his Sangha. So
Thank you. Go, Rachel.
The Gate of Sweet Nectar. Calling out to hungry spirits everywhere through space and time. Calling out to hungry hearts, all the lost and the left behind. Wait, oh gosh, I'm only in the second verse. I can't remember the whole thing now because it's, oh golly. I was just going to do the last bit. Well, if that's all I can do, that's all I'll do. Because I don't know if I can do the first part. It went from my brain. I'm going to try one more time.
next time.
Yeah. So I'll just do the end. Got it. Calling out to hungry hearts everywhere through endless time. You who wander, you who thirst, I offer you this Bodhi mind. Calling out to hungry spirits everywhere through space and time. Calling out to hungry hearts, all the lost and the left behind. Gather round and share this meal. Your joy and your sorrow, I make it mine.
It's beautiful.
Thank you.
Thank you for making me cry. I got a hungry heart right here, folks. So let us go, homie.
All right.
Go.
3 rounds of Om. Breath in.
Well, I just want to say I love this group and thank you all for all your shares today. It was just so beautiful. And oh, Rachel, what a way to wrap up. Thank you.
I'm glad you could make it.
Have a good week.
You
You
too.
too. Thanks,
Bye.
Pam. Bye bye, everybody.